do here. It's Bridges to work on Kuminga. Mikal Bridges to the rim. Kuminga forced to miss. Podziemski getting it to Curry. Steph to lay it in. Two-possession game. Cam Thomas will shoot a three. Long rebound back out to Dinwiddie. 7 seconds left. Missed the three. Clay's got the rebound. Warriors get the win.
Steph loves this action. Get back to winning.
Mikal Bridges thought he was home free. Jonathan Kuminga did just enough to force the missed layup. And the Warriors finally win a clutch game.
Yes, they do. Fitz and Kalena on the call, NBC Sports Bay Area. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR, the phone number to participate in the program. You can give me a call or shoot me a text here on The Sports Leader as we get things rolling. Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson, as the Warriors get the win. And, man, they had to work for it, but Golden State gets the win 124-120 over the Brooklyn Nets. And so the Warriors see their losing streak come to an end, the losing streak, which was the last 3 games away in Oklahoma City and Phoenix and against the Clippers. Golden State bouncing back with probably their best first half of the season, a 70-point first half for the Warriors. They built an 18-point lead, a lot of different contributions up and down the lineup for Golden State. But then the third quarter, they did a nice job with eliminating turnovers. Couldn't stop Cam Thomas tonight, really, at any point. A very balanced 41 for Cam Thomas on 15 of 24 and 5 of 13 from 3. But other than that, the Warriors really had a great first half and a late second quarter push, 38-29 Golden State in the second quarter after the 32-25 first quarter. But then in the third quarter, everything changed, and we'll get into some of the details and positives of how the Warriors were able to build the 18-point lead. But it all went away, for the most part, with the 35-25 Nets advantage in quarter number 3, and the Warriors' 18-point lead turned into a deficit, and a deficit in the fourth quarter. But Steph Curry saved the day as the Warriors survive. Herculean effort from Steph, with 16 in the fourth quarter, 16 of his 37 in the fourth quarter. It was really kind of an old-school turn-back-the-clock Splash Brothers game with Klay Thompson pitching in 24, and it was of the Warriors 29 in the fourth, because they still did get outscored by Brooklyn 31-29 in the final frame. Steph had 16, Klay Thompson had 6, Moses Moody 4, Brandon Podziemski 3, and that was enough to do the trick and hold off Brooklyn down the stretch. So Golden State now getting back to essentially where things were for a good chunk of last season. When you look at the Warriors able to win most, if not all, of their home games, but then they can't win on the road. So it's completely flipped off of where things were at the beginning of the season when the Warriors couldn't buy a home win. They were getting the job done to the tune of 5-1 on the road, and now it's basically flipped. This team's really struggling on the road now, but they're finding ways to win some of these close games, and the Warriors playing yet another close game in this one. Their 21st clutch game in 25 total games for the Warriors, and now Golden State 10-11 in those games, but they couldn't get it done against the Clippers the other night, couldn't get it done in Phoenix once that game got close. Blown leads in Oklahoma City in their first matchup against the Clippers, that Sacramento game where they had the 24-point lead, lost by a point. But the Warriors have been able to find a way to eke these wins out on the home floor, which it just helps to stabilize things for the Warriors. I mean, that's really what this one's all about tonight for Golden State, is whatever it takes. And this team has had to be carried by Steph Curry. And in some ways, you're happy. I mean, in many ways, because it's better than the alternative. And look, Brooklyn came in 13-11 with a better record than the Warriors, and a lot of talent from Dinwiddie to Thomas to Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. I mean, this is a pretty solid Eastern Conference team in Brooklyn, and the Warriors, without Draymond Green, you wonder how they're going to get enough stops. Offensively, you're wondering, are they going to get somebody come along for the ride with Steph and Curry? But tonight it was just Steph willed this team to victory in the fourth quarter when it looked like they were going to be in big trouble. He just said, I'm not getting shut out for a second consecutive game in the fourth quarter, whatever it takes. And you look at Steph Curry's fourth quarter, just tremendous. 7 of 7, 2 of 2 from 3, 16 points, the +6 in the quarter, and just willing the Warriors to a win that they absolutely had to have. If the Warriors lose this game, if Golden State loses this game, up 18 at home, I mean, I don't know where you even go from here at that particular point in time. I mean, it is tough stuff. At least it would have been, but disaster averted, crisis averted for the Warriors, at least for one night. They live to fight again, and they're going to have to fight again in pretty short order as they're going to head up, actually, and take on the Portland Trailblazers tomorrow in the second of a back-to-back. And that's another game that flat out the Warriors have to have. I mean, I called it on Thursday night that the Warriors basically really need to win 4 of the next 5. And the way I put it was get tonight, get the game in Portland tomorrow, take your chances with the Celtics on Tuesday night at Chase Center, and then make sure you handle the Wizards in Jordan Poole's return. And then a week from tonight, you're playing Portland, and you got to make up against one of the lesser teams in the Western Conference. So you got to beat Portland for a second time here in what will amount to a week's time after they play tomorrow. And that will get you to within a game of 500, and you've got a little bit of momentum building again when you go play Denver on Christmas. So disaster averted for the Warriors in this one as they win at 124-120. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. If you're leaving the ball game, check in with me. It's Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson, here on The Sports Leader. Appreciate everybody, as always, watching on YouTube and Twitch. We will get to your YouTube comments throughout the course of the program here as we keep things rolling all the way up until about 9:30 tonight here on The Sports Leader, following a big Warriors victory after they built the 18-point lead. So just kind of running through some of the key notes and nuggets. A 16-4 run for the Warriors after they were down 15-9 early. Warriors ended up leading by 7, 32-25 at the end of the quarter. They finished the quarter 23-10. Dario Saric, got to give a big nod to Dario Saric with 10 first-quarter points off the bench. Saric with 10 of his 12 in that first quarter, and that helped flip the game in the Warriors' favor after they got down early, and the largest lead for Brooklyn was that 15-9 lead as far as when Brooklyn had they did lead in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't to the point where it got into a true danger zone, although I got to believe a lot of Warrior fans tonight were really sweating. I mean, in a big-time way after Brooklyn was able to come from 18 down to take the lead. But Stephen Curry had every single answer to will this team to victory. Second quarter, Warriors pushed the lead up to 39-29. Cam Thomas was just going crazy. Warriors had just no answer for Cam Thomas, but the Warriors wind up with a 36-27 advantage late in the second quarter. They would finish it off 38-29 and a 70-point first half, the most in any half at home for the Warriors. So the best home half for sure for the Warriors, and tied for the second most in the first half this season, as the Warriors in the game that they blew in Sacramento had 72 back on November the 28th. So the Warriors with 70 in a half for the fourth time on this season. And so one of the best, if not the best, definitely the best first half that the Warriors have had to this point at home. And so Golden State was able to build the lead up 16 at that point. They would push it up to 18. But then you look at Klay Thompson, 16 points in the first half. Steph was doing his thing. Saric, we talked about him, and Golden State another night where the bench does the job, a 23-7 bench advantage in the first half, and it wound up being another nice night, really, for the Warriors as far as the bench goes. When you look up 30-13 Warriors with the bench scoring advantage in a game that they wind up winning by 4. But yeah, third quarter was rough. Turnovers early, a lot of sloppiness. Felt like the Warriors took their foot off the gas. Just not a good quarter. They for the most part, were able to maintain right around a 10-point lead throughout, but the Nets would pull it to 4, quick 8-0 run, and the lead was gone, all but gone. Brandon Pajemski with a couple of key buckets. Wiggins got fouled at the end of the shot clock when the Warriors had the lead cut back down to 3. That made it a 6-point game going to the fourth quarter. That was actually a key moment when you look back at the end of the third quarter, when you see how the fourth quarter played out. But it was really back and forth in the fourth quarter as the Nets just got hot from 3, at one point making 8 of 14 over a stretch from three-point range, just getting good looks. The defense as the game went on, really just getting picked apart. The Nets were really getting whatever they wanted for the most part as the game went on. Another real problematic occurrence without Draymond Green. But again, it came down to Steph and Clay, and really in the fourth quarter, Steph having every single answer. 37 points, 14 of 22 shooting for Steph. He winds up 6 of 8 from three-point range. Some positive performances from Andrew Wiggins. Put it out on Twitter during the game. I thought Andrew Wiggins probably deserved to finish the game tonight. Now, Steve Kerr went in a different direction. Dario Saric, Brandon Pajemski, key contributors for the Warriors. And we talked about Steph Curry 7 for 7 in the fourth quarter. But the Warriors needed every ounce of all of that to earn a win. So how you feeling about this one? 808 KNBR is the number to chime in. We'll get to the YouTube chat coming up here as well on The Sports Leader. It's one of those games where you got to feel good if you're a Warriors fan about getting the win, but then it also, I think, has got to be a little bit draining to where you're thinking, damn. Like Curry had to do that, and Clay had to play as well as he did, and they finally got something out of Wiggins, and Pajemski and Saric did their thing, and an 18-point lead still turned into a deficit in the fourth quarter where all of those things needed to happen for the Warriors just to survive against a good Brooklyn team, but a solid. Brooklyn's solid. I mean, Brooklyn's probably going to win in the low to mid 40s this season, but to do that at home and still have to sweat it out the way that they did. Again, you'll take the win, especially given the 4-12 stretch over the last 16 after the Warriors had the 6-2 start. And the win was a must, I think, for this team to just stop the bleeding. But as you start to look at the bigger picture, it is a win where you look at those individual performances, but it also, I think, does tell a little bit just about where this Warriors team is at as far as how much has to go right on a nightly basis for them to be able to win. And look, all they can do is continue to push. The schedule is going to get easier. They played a lot of the top teams many times in the early part of this season. When you look at a couple of matchups against Phoenix, and now they've played the Clippers 3 times. They've already played Sacramento 3 times. Hell, they've already played Oklahoma City 4 times on the year. So, I mean, you look at that, Minnesota a couple of times. Like, the schedule is going to get easier for the Warriors, and I think they're hoping that they can, get on a little bit of a run. But before you can get on a little bit of a run, you got to get back to 500. And you got to get back to 500 as quickly as possible. I think a target goal for the Warriors needs to be 500 by New Year's. And really the only way to do it is the way we started the show, by talking about the fact that you got to probably win 4 of the 5 here coming up between this game tonight, a couple of games against Portland, and you absolutely have to beat the Wizards before you go and play Denver on Christmas. And then you see what happens as far as Miami and Dallas, a couple of real tough games, but games that are going to be played at Chase Center to close out the 2023 portion of the schedule. 808 KNBR is the number. Let's get to the phones here. And it's Mark and Millbrae. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Mark?
What's up? Coming back from the game, headed to Millbrae. Couple of points here. To me, Curry's still incredible. The way he can just take over a game still at this point in his career, when a lot of people thought he would slow down. As far as the the supporting cast with the Draymond nonsense now, everybody's really got to even elevate their game even more. And Podziemski, solid. We need just production from any of these guys. Clay, at this point, you don't know what you're going to get from game to game. If he can give you just 20-plus points, even if it's not as efficient, they'll take it because the Warriors really struggling for offense at this point in time. And I like that Kerr's finally tinkering with the rotation here. Move down Wiggins, who's mightily struggling right now. He's the X factor right now. I know a lot of the controversy right now is around Draymond, but to me, the biggest factor right now, why the Warriors are where they're at, because Wiggins has been a non-factor. I don't know if he just got paid and now he's just going to be on cruise control, but he's really got to get his head together, man. This is unacceptable from him. So hopefully at this point, moving him out of the starting lineup here will really fire him up and get him going. And if that doesn't work, I don't know what will, but hopefully we'll see with that. But as far as tonight's game goes, there's going to be no easy games. I know Brooklyn is kind of a pesky team, as you see. But I just don't think with this Warriors team, it's going to take Curry heroics basically to beat anybody. I'm looking at the schedule, regardless of who they play. I think it's even lowly teams like Portland. I think it's going to come down to they're going to have to fight and claw to win these type of games. So even if they're up, like they were up tonight, 15, 20-plus points, teams are going to be able to claw back at them in the second half, and the Warriors are really going to have to grind out these wins, and minus Curry going, Superman mode and going 50-plus points. So I want to get your points in terms of how do the Warriors pace themselves and not draining Curry, because it's really going to come down on your shoulders because the supporting cast really hasn't shown up this year, and we don't know from game to game who is. And trying to find out of the stretch, trying to get back to over 500 with their easier schedule. But I don't think there's going to be easy games for this team.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Mark. I don't think there are going to be easy games, and no lead is safe. I think that's the one thing we know. No lead is going to be safe for this team. It was the 18-point lead tonight that went away. We've seen all these other leads in a lot of these road games go away. And this team just flat out isn't good enough to sustain. They just aren't good enough. Like that's the reality of it, especially without Draymond Green. The Warriors defense in both of these games, now that they've had to play in full without Draymond, has been really shoddy. Like draw and kick, pick and roll actions, teams really getting whatever they want. The Clippers basically got whatever they want for the bulk of that game. Brooklyn, as the game went on, got whatever they want and started hitting. I thought Brooklyn, for the most part, just wasn't making good shots in the first and the second quarter. So I think the defense is a concern without Draymond. I think Steph's going to have to keep playing at this level as he has all year. And, he didn't have – if he has this fourth quarter on Thursday night, they win. Now, that's not to put it on Steph like, he's a bum or anything like that because he didn't come up. I mean, there's going to be games where he can't do it in every single fourth quarter. Tonight he did. Thursday he didn't. Tonight they win, but tonight they got other performances. You need Klay Thompson scoring 24 points, and you can live with 7 of 19 if he's 4 of 9 from 3. Like that you can live with. Jonathan Kuminga was solid tonight. Not a part of the closing lineup because Andrew Wiggins played better, but you got a 14-point game from Andrew Wiggins. You had Saric basically flip the game in the first quarter. Podziemski was huge. 19 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Like Podziemski did have 5 turnovers. He also drew a couple of charges. So Podziemski just does a lot of little things. You can see why Steve Kerr loves him and wants to be playing him. So I think as far as the lineup changes and everything go to this point, I think it's all good. I think the lineup changes are working to this point. You're trying to get more out of Wiggins by taking a little of the pressure off of him and moving him to the bench. You're trying to reward Kuminga for playing well in a couple of games. You're trying to make up for the absence of Draymond Green, so you're keeping Kevon Looney in there. But if you're going to go with Looney and you're going to go with Kuminga in the starting lineup, then you need another playmaker that can hit a shot. And so that's why Podziemski winds up being in there, because he brings energy and rebounding and all kinds of things. You almost need Podziemski's rebounding to make up for the fact that you're not going to get as much rebounding maybe from Kuminga on certain nights. So you have a lot of balance, I think, there with that group. It allows Chris Paul to stay with Saric and come off the bench. And then you let things roll with Wiggins and Kuminga's roles, at least with Draymond out, basically flip-flopping, and Moses Moody pitches in here and there. So I think the lineup changes to this point are working, but it is a little bit of a catch-22 because you're happy with the win, but this is probably the way that it's going to have to be. Probably the way that it's going to have to be. Rockin' New Era 84, looking at the YouTube chat. Also, 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR, it's John Dickinson, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader following the Warriors win over the Nets 124-120. So Golden State now 11-14 on the season. They will be in Portland tomorrow. And so, tonight, Warriors got taxed. Steph Curry had to take it over, and you got to go win tomorrow. Otherwise, we're right back in the same position that we were basically Thursday, only worse if you go up there and you can't win against the Blazers. Spencer Wood chiming in, and I will get to the YouTube chat. Spencer Wood chiming in, is it a bigger concern that we have the tendency to blow large leads or not pull out the close fourth quarter games for the most part this season? I think it's both, but I think both are connected. The Warriors blow leads because they're not quite good enough to put teams away, but then they also don't win the close games at the level that I think they want and the Warrior fan base wants because they just don't, they're just not good enough to execute. They don't have enough consistent scoring or they can't get enough consistent stops. Tonight, Steph Curry took the freaking game over. And they won because of that. If Steph Curry goes, 5 of 7 instead of 7 for 7, we're talking about a Warriors loss. So it really, I think it's trouble in some ways, the way that the Warriors have to get it done. But right now, I think it's more about survival than anything. Survive, get as many wins as possible, and then hope that other players can start playing more consistently. You get on a little bit of a run. You start playing some lesser teams, and you can start putting some of these games away. But I think both are equally alarming because they both, I think, show you the talent level. And it's not just like they're not talented. Like, I'm not saying this team doesn't have talented players, but how often did we see the Warriors, they get up 18 over the years where they were dominant, and that game's over. They put it away because 18 would turn into 26. And then if a team made a run, their run was knocking it down to 15 or knocking it down to 12. Now that run isn't 26-12. That run is 14 to tie game. And then you got to go win it down the stretch, and you're a little bit older, and you got to execute. And I think part of the execution problems down the stretch in games is because the Warriors don't know night to night who their closing players are going to be. So sometimes what Steve Kerr's tried to put out there as a great strength can also be a weakness in the sense that, the best teams typically know who 3, really 4 of their closers are. But most of the great teams, they know who their finishing players are. When the Warriors were winning titles, they knew who their 5 was at the end of the game, right? It was Steph, it was Clay, it was Harrison Barnes, it was Iguodala, and it was Draymond. And then you sub Kevin Durant for Harrison Barnes, and it was those 5. And then maybe Looney would be in there as time went on. Even a couple of years ago, it was Steph, it was Clay, it was Draymond, it was Wiggins, and then you'd figure out maybe it was GP2, maybe it was Looney. You knew who 4 of the 5 were. Maybe it was Otto Porter a couple years ago. Like that, I think that team knew 4 of the 5, and then the 5th could fluctuate. The problem for the Warriors finishing games is they know Steph and Clay. They don't know Draymond because he might be suspended. But they know Steph, they know Clay, and then it's is it Looney? Maybe. Is it Saric? Possibly. Is it Kuminga? We've seen that. Is it Moody? And so I think when you're not, Chris Paul has been out there a lot in a lot of these close games. So I think when you look at it, that's been part of the reason why they haven't been able to finish some of these games is some of the inconsistency. But I also think when you blow leads, you're kind of gassed down the stretch in a lot of these games. 808 KNBR is the number. If you're leaving the game on your way home, you want to react to this one. Warriors get the win 124-120. It's Dubs OT with John Dickinson here on The Sports Leader. We will hear from Steve Kerr. We will hear from Stephen Curry. We will hear from Klay Thompson. All of that is coming up here on the Dubs OT program. I do want to run through some of the YouTube chat here. Rockin' New Era 84. Curry was cooking. Yes, he was. Enrique Rivera checking in, looking snazzy, JD. Yeah, I got one of my nice collared long sleeve untuckets on tonight. Big untucket guy. That's not a sponsor. I just, not paid to say that. I just happen to like the untucket look. Rockin' New Era 84 also chiming in. JD, how do you feel about the starting lineup for the second game? So far, so good. Keep it going. I'm all for consistency, and Steve Kerr said he was going to give him a few games, and I thought it went fine the other night. I thought Podziemski was really good tonight. I thought Kuminga was solid. Kuminga's not going to be a player that's necessarily going to finish every game, even if he's starting, but he was a plus player tonight and scored 10 points and helped them. So, yeah, roll that lineup back out there again against Portland tomorrow. I'd keep it going. Judith Pierre in the chat. Nice to see you again, JD. Wonderful to see your comment pop up in the chat, Judith. Judith, though, angry with the follow-up. Why didn't Trace Jackson-Davis play? Steve Kerr did address Trace Jackson-Davis not playing a little bit in the pregame, and it was just that it's hard to play three centers was the short answer. And you want to have time for Looney. You want to have time for Saric. I think there are going to be some nights where Saric isn't maybe the best matchup, but tonight Saric played pretty well, and they needed Saric to be out there. And Steve Kerr doesn't like to play three centers. He did it against the Clippers. Trace Jackson-Davis did not play well against the Clippers. I think that's the other just kind of rat on the table there. He played 5 minutes, didn't do a lot, fumbled a couple of passes, has to be better. So I think Steve Kerr wanted to play two centers and give the run to Looney and Saric tonight. And that means Trace Jackson-Davis doesn't play. I don't think there's anything really to be concerned with. I just think, Trace Jackson-Davis, for the most part, has struggled when he's gotten opportunities of late. And so, really going back over the last month, I thought he played pretty well the first 10, 12 games or so when he got chances. I think the last 15 games or so, he really hasn't played well when he's received those opportunities, but they're still going to need him. But I don't think it's a big deal, really, one way or another, as far as Trace Jackson-Davis not playing. He will get his opportunities. I wonder if Trace Jackson-Davis, maybe as long as the Warriors are healthy at the center spot, you want to send him down and get him a little bit of run in the G League. I think that could be a possibility for Trace Jackson-Davis. But the problem is, again, the Warriors, you may wind up on another night with Saric not being the best matchup, and you want to throw Trace Jackson-Davis out there. And if he's in Santa Cruz or playing with Santa Cruz somewhere else in the G League, then you can't go to him, and you're hurting the team. So I think that's why he's around, but just because he's around obviously doesn't mean he's going to end up playing on a night-in, night-out basis. JD always looking fresh. Appreciate that. Benny chiming in. Kuminga needs to show he can be a starter during this stretch without Draymond. Yeah, I don't need to put all that on Kuminga. Kuminga just needs to come in and be solid. Nobody, Kuminga really has nothing in my mind to prove other than just be solid. Be a high motor player. Be the player that he's been these last 5 games. Be the player that he's been since he got benched in the first half against Portland. He's been really good since he got benched in the first half against Portland. All he's got to do is be solid. That's a win. That is a win. Enrique, Trace Jackson-Davis, his time will come. So, yeah, appreciate everybody on the YouTube chat. We'll get to more of those as they pop up. 808 KNBR is the number. We'll head into the locker room. The great Greg Silver is here as well. Warriors win it 124-120. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Cam Thomas on him. Curry yanks it back, crosses him over. Baseline pull.
That's one for social media there. Just punish Cam Thompson.
Curry's got the building buzzing. 3-point lead in the ball. Winding down towards 5 minutes. Steph for three. Good!
Oh, he's like, call a timeout. You know what to do. This is his house. He is hyped.
Yeah, this is Steph's house, no doubt. Fitz and Kalena on the call, NBC Sports Bay Area. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. Warriors win it 124-120, so Golden State snaps the losing streak. It ends at 3, and now the Warriors suddenly they can only win at home, and they can't win on the road. But crisis averted, at least for one night, with Golden State blowing the 18-point lead, but Steph and Curry saying, not tonight, not in my house. This skid will go no further, as Stephen Curry goes off in the fourth quarter, refusing to lose. 16 points on 7 of 7, 2 of 2 from 3, 5 of 5 from 2, just getting the job done and willing the Warriors to a victory that they absolutely had to have if they're going to make anything of this season. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR, to give me a call or shoot me a text. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line open here on the Sports Leader. Appreciate everybody on YouTube and Twitch as well. We're going to get back to the YouTube chat coming up here momentarily, but we do have a couple of phone lines open, 808 KNBR, if you want to react to this one on a Saturday night where the Warriors are feeling good before they are about to hop on a bird and head up to Portland, where they will take on the Trailblazers. And Portland struggling. They've lost 6 in a row, have the Blazers. Now 6-18 on the season. They're 2-8 at home. So tomorrow cannot, under any circumstances, be a loss for the Warriors. It has to be hell or high water, another win. And it doesn't matter if it's pretty and it doesn't matter if it's ugly. It has to be a win. And Portland gave the Warriors all they could handle at Chase the last home game that the Warriors played before this game tonight. Back on, what would that have been, the 6th, I guess, of December. It was one of those games that was added due to the in-season tournament and the Warriors not making the in-season tournament round of 8. So they got thrown into a pool with Portland and then played Oklahoma City again as the teams had to make up their 81st and 82nd games on the schedule based on the teams that did ultimately make the in-season tournament. So the Warriors playing Portland a bunch here in a short period of time. Trailblazers are going to be at Chase a week from tonight, and that's going to be a game that the Warriors absolutely have to have. So 808 KNBR is the number. Just the question du jour tonight is just kind of how you feeling about this one. Are you feeling good about the win? Of course. I mean, I think that's an easy answer. But the way that the Warriors have had to get it done, even tonight, even the game against the Clippers that the Warriors won, going back to the final night in November, the game that I just mentioned at home against Portland. I mean, those are the last 3 Warrior wins. And all of those wins have been games where Golden State has, for the most part, controlled a couple of them and then had to hang on, fight their way back tonight. I know they found their way down against Portland, had to rally in a fourth quarter. That game was kind of flipped. Jonathan Kuminga with the big boost in that one after he had been benched in the first half. But the Warrior, even the win, the losses have been frustrating and just confounding. But the wins, in many ways, as good as they feel, they tell a story just overall about how good this team is. They just cannot put anybody away. But for tonight, a win is a win is a win. I think all of Dub Nation can breathe a sigh of relief. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow. If they can chase it with another one, then you're feeling better. 12-14. Celtics are coming in to chase on Tuesday night. And we'll see if the Warriors, even without Draymond Green, still have a little something for them. But, yeah, nobody's playing better in the early part of this season than the Celtics, except maybe the Timberwolves, both coming in at 19-5 right now. But Boston about to start a trip, as they're going to be playing the Warriors, and then they go to Sacramento and have a couple other stops, play the Lakers on Christmas down in L.A. So you look at it, and, yeah, the Celtics are coming on Tuesday, but you can't look ahead at the Celtics and that showcase game on Tuesday night. You got to get the win against Portland tomorrow first. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR. Let's go back to the chat real quick, and then we'll hear some post-game sound here on the Sports Leader. Carrison, Aaron checking in. JD, do you think this team will triple down and trade a player? Steph and Clay and Dre at the trade deadline, keeping them intact and trading potentially somebody else. I think it really does hinge on the next 15 to 20 games, as Mike Dunleavy said. If this team shows that they're a player away from being able to be a true contender, I think the Warriors will look to maybe package some of the other players that aren't Steph or Clay or Draymond and try and make some improvements. The issue is, though, if some of the guys that you would be looking to trade are playing better or playing well, he said Podziemski, because I think Podziemski for the most part has played well at every opportunity. Probably the most consistent young player the Warriors have had, him or Moody, although Kuminga's coming along strong here the last 4 or 5 games. So more production from the young guys, more production from the bench. But if this team starts playing well with the group that they have, well, then there's no reason to make a trade if you can get on a run. But it's got to be a significant run. It just can't be, you win 3 and you lose 2, and then you blow a big lead, and then you survive a home game, and then you go lose another couple more on the road. Like they got to get on an extended winning streak. But I think everything's going to be on the table. But the Warriors have to, in these next 15 or 20 games, show Mike Dunleavy Jr. and show Joe Lacob that they're worth fighting for. Steph, Clay, and eventually Draymond at some point have to show management that this season is worth saving, that this season is worth going out and trying to add to be able to push them over the top, whether that's getting into the top 6 or, I'm reluctant to even talk about getting into the top 6 right now, by the way, because the Warriors still, as you look at the NBA standings, still 11th. Better than it was a night ago, but still 11th. And a couple of games back of 10th, and just as close to Utah, who's getting smoked tonight in Sacramento, as they are to Phoenix, who currently is the 10 seed. And, man, doesn't look like the Suns are ever going to get everybody healthy at the same time between Booker and Durant and Beal, with Beal going back down again after they had just had everybody back for, a game and a half or a game and 4 minutes before Bradley Beal comes back and winds up injured, although reports today indicating that it wasn't a significant injury. John Dickinson, it's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Warriors win it 124-120. Want to let everybody know we'll be with you right at the final horn again tomorrow here on the Sports Leader as the Warriors go to Portland. I'm going to be on hand in Phoenix or Glendale for the 49ers and the Cardinals, covering that game here for the Sports Leader. And then we're gonna reconvene remotely as the Dubs game will be tipping off right around 6 o'clock. And then, about 8:15, 8:30 here on the Sports Leader tomorrow. We'll be taking your calls and texts and chat and all those good things here as the Warriors try to make it 2 in a row. Benny, Warriors need to get on a winning streak. This run of winnable games against inferior teams. Yeah, absolutely. Rockin' New Era chiming in with another comment. Clay's looked good the past 2 games. Probably doesn't want to join Wiggins on the bench. I think that's pretty accurate. I think Klay Thompson, sometimes the message you send is to the player that you take out of the starting lineup. Sometimes the message you send is to other players that remain in the starting lineup. And I think Steve Kerr's decision to move Andrew Wiggins out and basically put Podziemski in because Kuminga's in Draymond's spot, I think it puts Wiggins on notice, and I do think it puts Klay Thompson on notice. To have Steve Kerr be so willing to put Podziemski in and kick Klay up to the 3, I think that tells Klay that it could have just as easily been him. Maybe when Wiggins gets his game on track or if Moses Moody is steady or whatever. Draymond Green returns at some point down the line. So, yeah, I think Klay's played much better these last couple of games. And Klay has been coming around, I feel like, over the last maybe 10 games or so, but there's just still the awful ones mixed in there. But I think that's the player that he is. I think that's the player that Klay Thompson is at this point. He's going to have a lot of nights where he's pretty good, pretty steady. I think there's going to be a lot of, the Warriors just can't win the awful games when Klay Thompson truly does struggle. Rich Ray checking in here on the YouTube chat. Appreciate Rich Ray. I'm sold on the kid Brandon, but it took me a minute. Why has he figured it out faster than JK and Moody and other young players? It's a great question. I think his game, the number one thing that Podziemski does is he is high motor. High motor. Like he's hustling, he's rebounding, he takes charges. Like Podziemski's game is do the little things first. And Steve Kerr loves connectors. He dubbed Podziemski a connector very quickly. And that's basically somebody that you can play with a lot of different combinations, and he helps. Why? Because he's a ball mover. He's got a little bit of a handle. And so, he's got a handle. He can play make, which are two things that Kuminga and Moody don't do. Kuminga scores. He can score when he puts his head down. Moody is really somebody that you want offensively to have the ball in his hands out of he's going to get kickouts a lot of the time for open shots, for opportunities to shoot threes, or he's going to, put a pump fake on somebody and drive at that point. So I just think Podziemski's just got a little more life consistently, but he's hustling, but he's doing little things. I mean, Brandon Podziemski's a better rebounder than Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, and he's smaller than both of them. Like, that's how he's picked it up faster. He just has a real complementary skill set to other players, which I think allows him to get more run than Kuminga and even Moody. Moody, unfortunately, feels like he's been a little bit more the odd man out in the new structure of the rotation, and I hate the fact that it always winds up seeming like Moody ends up being the odd man out, and not that he played great tonight or deserved more minutes necessarily. The Warriors had Wiggins going, and Kuminga was fine, and Podziemski played 32 minutes. So, yeah, I just think Podziemski also more experience from the college game, even still as a relatively young player, and more experience being a lead-type guard. And I know he hasn't really played that role with the Warriors. They've basically played him with Steph or with Chris Paul. They like having him out there with a point guard and allowing him be a secondary creator. So I think that's been the big reason why Podziemski's picked it up quicker. He also, I give Podziemski a lot of credit because Podziemski looked like he was going to have a tough time scoring enough in the NBA in the summer league. Like, his shot looked rough in the summer league. But whatever he did between July and October, he looked like a completely different player. And so he may just be one of those guys that when the bright lights are on, he steps it up. So I think you got to love what Podziemski has been able to do. 808 KNBR, the number here on the Sports Leader. Yeah, I think it's right now Podziemski's playing, and he's going to keep playing. And you can withstand some of the defensive issues because Podziemski does have some defensive issues at times, but he also gets his body in there and isn't afraid to take charges. Kuminga has, as much as he's a pretty good on-ball defender, Kuminga really struggles off-ball defensively, which I think puts him in some vulnerable positions. And then you look at Moody, and I think Moody, unfortunately, is kind of a tweener. Like, there are nights where you want him to play 3, but the matchup might not be right. Then you want him to play 2, but the matchup might not be right. And so he winds up, I think, a lot of the time being the odd man out. Podziemski's just going to play because he can get out there and he can get into the lane a little bit. He can hit an open 3. He can grab a rebound. He can set others up for buckets. And he just hustles. He just plays his ass off all the time. And that's one thing that for as talented as Kuminga is, that is a big difference between Podziemski and Kuminga. Kuminga, he's done it these last 4 or 5 games, but Kuminga, when he's been given more run and earned more run is probably a better way to say it. When Kuminga's earned more run, the more Steve Kerr goes to him, typically the more comfortable he gets, the more relaxed he gets, and then that motor isn't quite as hot as it is. And so the cycle, unfortunately, for Kuminga has been gets benched, comes back, plays pretty well, earns himself more opportunities. Then when he earns himself more opportunities, he gets a little comfortable, starts to fall off, the motor goes down, Kerr has to bench him again. And then everybody gets all ticked off and wonders why. And then he gets the message, comes back, he's flying around again. And it's just like, to me, that's been the cycle with Kuminga. It's not that Kuminga can't play or has been bad or any of these different things. He just, I think, has run this cycle of needing to constantly be kind of pushed to play fast and hard and compete and rebound and do the energy things. I loved Kuminga's first half tonight. I thought he played really well in the first half. He had 3 buckets, all at the rim. He had a few boards, had a block. Like I don't know. I liked Kuminga in his game overall in the first half. And look, Wiggins was really good. So Wiggins, I think, earned the right to be out there more than Kuminga down the stretch tonight. And then when it was all said and done, you look at the group that really was out there. It was Curry, Podziemski, Thompson, Wiggins, and Looney. And then Chris Paul came in for Podziemski. Podziemski came back in for Wiggins. And that wound up being the crew that wound up finishing the game. But it was a lot of Steph helping to get the job done for the Warriors. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR, Warriors win it 124-120. Back in action tomorrow in Portland as the Warriors are going to look to try and make it 2 in a row and get back on the winning ways away from Chase. How long has it been since the Warriors won a game away from Chase? My goodness. I'm looking at it right now. Lose to the Clippers, lose to Phoenix, lose to Oklahoma City, lose the game against the Clippers before that, lose to Sacramento, lose to Phoenix the night before Thanksgiving. Sheesh. They haven't won a road game in a minute. They haven't won a road game since beating Detroit. Is that right? They haven't won a road game. They lost to Denver, lost to Phoenix, lost to Sacramento, lost in OKC, lost that game to the Clippers, lost to Phoenix again, lost to the Clippers again. So, yeah, wow. Damn. 7 in a row. Just like that on the road for the Warriors. Yeah, that's got to end tomorrow. That's absolutely got to end tomorrow. Gonzalo Naranjo, good to see Monta Ellis at the game. Brought back great memories. Yeah, that was cool. And Monta did a little press conference before the game for the media, introduced to the crowd, got a wonderful ovation. He was dapping it up with Steph. Kind of a complicated relationship, I think, when you go back to Monte's initial, Steph Curry's first day in the NBA, right? The media day where Monte's at one podium saying, yeah, the two of us can't play together. Sorry, not going to work. Two guards that need the rock in their hands. Not going to work. And then at another table, Steven Jackson, who'd just gotten paid, it's like, yeah, I want out. I want to trade. Welcome to the NBA, Steph. So, yeah, that, and then Monta gets traded, and the Warrior fan base was on tilt at Joe Lacob. And then Stephen Curry turns into an all-time great, and Monta Ellis was just kind of a nice role player, really, for the remainder of his career, but a beloved player in the annals of, We Believe, and a tough era, really, after We Believe, among his 7 seasons. But he was a big part of the We Believe team, and he was a fan favorite. Oracle used to rock when Monta Ellis was going for 50 or had the ball in his hands at the end of a game trying to isolate and get the Warriors at that point after the We Believe guys were gone. It was basically Monta trying to put a game away on his own. So, yeah, I think Warrior fans have nothing but great vibes and feeling for Monta Ellis. He was a hell of an entertaining player during his tenure. And again, he was a part of the We Believe team that is etched in fans' memories until the end of time, really. And I know a lot of those memories have been surpassed by better memories and championships and Steph and Clay and Draymond and everything else. But there's no doubt We Believe in its own way is as special as anything that the Warrior franchise has done that hasn't ended in them ultimately winning an NBA championship. All right, let's get to a little post-game sound here on The Sports Leader as the Warriors win this one 124-120. Actually, you know what? Let's pause. Let's pause first. We'll come back. Greg Silver's been doing a hell of a job setting up the sound. So we'll get to some post-game locker room sound. We'll hear from Steve Kerr. We'll hear from Steph Curry. We'll hear from Klay Thompson. Warriors get the win 124-120. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader.
Yeah, baby!
Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps rolling. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
You should try to find as many possible ways for you can to be able to be you, have fun with it, enjoy the game, and the success will come. Like with me, personally, the reason why I left the game so early because I lost the love of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it just wasn't fun to me anymore.
Brandon Pajemski's having a lot of fun. This rookie has been interesting. Nice ad for the Dubs.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I'm saying. When you that rookie or whatever, and then your coach have that confidence in you, you can go out there and make plays like that.
And take charges.
Yes.
Passion.
Yes.
And finally
so
slowed
it make
down
it
Cam
easier.
Thomas.
It make it easier if we go out there and do your job.
All right, Monta Ellis there as he joined the broadcast on NBC Sports Bay Area. We welcome you back. It's Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the number. Still time to sneak in a call or two here on a Saturday. Warriors win over the Nets, 124-120. On to Portland. Golden State on that plane coming up here tonight momentarily as they head up to Portland, take on the Blazers tomorrow, and then back at home on Tuesday for the Boston Celtics, a team that right now has the best record in the NBA, tied with the Timberwolves, both those teams at 19-5. Couple other comments here from the YouTube chat. Uncle Looney just chiming in with a great job as always, JD. Like that. Sometimes I need a little confidence booster. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Uncle Looney. Rockin' New Era chiming in. Any update on GP2 and when he might come back? Maybe 2 to 3 more weeks. Yeah, the next reevaluation point is in a week, and he's starting to do some light basketball activities. That was the last reevaluation a couple days ago. I think that was on Thursday, the afternoon of the game in L.A. So he's starting to do light work. So about a week, maybe he can start to practice. And then at that point, maybe he's a week away from being able to come back. So, yeah, I think 2 to 3 weeks is probably right on point. A lot of people thinking the Warriors in the chat were going to let the game get away. And I can't imagine the show we'd be doing if the Warriors had let that game get away. And it just, it looked, Steph is hitting threes and Clay's hitting threes and the Warriors are just answering. And then Brooklyn's answering. And Cam Thomas went for 41 in the game tonight. And you're just thinking, man, it felt like a lot of these games where no matter what the Warriors do, they just can't shake their opponent. But they survive. And so we'll see if they can turn one win into 2 and then figure it out from there. Fozzie? Cheers, JD. Yeah, cheers. Cheers to everybody. I'm a big cheers guy. No matter what is in your cup. Maybe it's a beer. Maybe it's a little champagne. Maybe you like a little whiskey. Maybe it's a soda. Could be anything. But yeah, cheers. Always works. All right, let's get to some post-game sound. And let's just start it with Steph Curry. Man of the hour as he goes for 16 in the fourth quarter, 37 for the game. He joined the fellas on the NBC Sports Bay Area postgame right at the end of this one from the floor, and he addressed the final 6 minutes and everything he had to do to get the job done.
Release the Kraken! Big win for us, obviously. I think I said it after the Clipper game. Just got to win on Saturday, no matter what it takes, because we needed some feel good around here. However we could get it done. That was fun. We needed our crowd's energy. Solid last 6 minutes on both ends, really, to kind of weather the storm of a very athletic team. We got it done. We needed it really, really bad.
They needed it really bad. And it doesn't matter how you do, you got to get the job done. And so, yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that. And on to the next. You just got to win one, and one hopefully turns into 2, and 2 turns into 4, and then, maybe this team can get on a 7-3 type of a run or something like that, and then they're back to 500, and then you go. It's really, when you get as deep under 500 as the Warriors are, and I know it's only now 3 games, but it was 4, and it was basically the low point at any point of the last 2 years. The worst the Warriors were a year ago was 3-7. That was the only time they were 4 under 500. And so you look at where they are, 4 under 500, 10-14. It's as bad as the Warriors have been since they won the championship in 2022 was after the game on Thursday night. So the first step is get back to 500. The next step after that is, and how long is that going to take you? And then the next step is to try and push forward from there. So you have to get the win in a game like tonight. All right, let's hear another Stephen Curry cut as he addressed his message to the team.
We're a team, man. I have a job to do, and again, I prepare myself mentally and physically to go do it every night, and have done that for a long time. But it's not just me. I can't go win a game by myself. I can play well, and I have to play well. I know that, but I don't win the game by myself. So I guess both, to your question. Like, there's definitely a pressure, and I live for those type of moments. But there's guys getting an opportunity to step up, and we're learning a lot about ourselves as we go. And confidence is starting to build. It's one game. Got to try to win tomorrow, the same kind of energy. So that's how I approach it. I told the team before the game, we have to be able to get lost in the game as much as you can, because with all the stuff that's going on, you can put a little bit too much pressure on yourself or get a little ahead of yourself on trying to get the results without just, enjoying the process. So that was my only message, and I got lost in the game tonight.
Got lost in the game tonight. And the irony is that I feel like the younger players are the ones that haven't put the pressure on themselves. I think the younger players have been the guys that have just gone out there and play. Pajemski, I think Kuminga lately has done that. Like, I don't ever feel like Kuminga's put. Sometimes I guess he does look like he's thinking a little bit out there. Like, there's a lot of things that the coaches are telling him to do. So I think that's something that, at times has hurt Kuminga. But Kuminga, for the most part, when he'll put his head down and go, that's, he'll get the job done. Like, he doesn't lack for confidence. Moody is steady as all get out. If anything, the guys that have put a little of the pressure on themselves have been, Draymond maybe getting all wound up when other guys are coming for him, and Clay. I mean, Clay's really the one. Wiggins, if he's putting pressure on himself, it sure hasn't looked like it, but I think part of that is Andrew Wiggins' natural demeanor, and part of that's just his gait, the way that he plays. He just plays a little bit more in cruise control. But, yeah, I think collectively it's really been more the young guys that have been just cool, calm, and collected and gone out there and been aggressive. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Let's hear from Klay Thompson as we go back over to Chase in the Bill King interview room in the postgame press conference here on the Sports Leader. Klay Thompson addressed Stephen Curry's big night.
He willed us to victory. We appreciate him. Tomorrow, hopefully, we can help shoulder the load a little more. And he was special tonight. I mean, just his ability to create shots and make shots from all over the floor at the rim and the mid-range from 35 feet is something probably we'll never see again in the league. So I'm grateful for Steph's performance tonight. It really put us over the edge.
Yeah, I think Klay speaks for the entire Warrior team, and I think the entire Warrior fan base on that note. But Klay shouldn't sell himself short. Curry had help tonight. I mean, if Curry doesn't have help, then we're talking about one of the worst losses of the season, maybe the worst loss of the season, considering the circumstances, considering it would have put him at 10-15, considering another lead blown, this time at home. But the reality is Steph had help tonight. Maybe not in the fourth quarter, but look, a lot of teams go through the fourth quarter and have their best player carry them to victory. Now, not all of them do it to the tune of 7 for 7 and 16 points on a night-in, night-out basis. But Klay was the primary helper for Steph Curry. 24 points, knocked down 4 of 9 from 3. Warriors 17 three-point makes at a 53% clip. That'll get the job done. But there was a lot of help tonight. Podziemski's 19, 4 3-point makes. That was help. Saric had 12, all in the first half, 10 of the 12 in the first quarter, as we talked about earlier. And Andrew Wiggins helped tonight. Andrew Wiggins, 5 of 5 at the free throw line tonight. 14 points. Jonathan Kuminga had 10. 6 players in double figures. You had Steph and Clay. I mean, this was a turn back the clock Splash Brothers game. Steph and Clay go for 61. And the Warriors get the win. 124-120. All right, let's hear a quick one from Steve Kerr, and then we'll get a couple from the YouTube chat, and then we'll call it a night here on The Sports Leader because it's going to be a quick turnaround for everybody. 49er coverage here on The Sports Leaders coming up tomorrow. I'm heading to Arizona where we're going to be talking Niners, and I got coverage of that one, and then we'll be on with Dubs OT. Our first back-to-back. It's our first back-to-back, Greg, since coming over to do Dubs OT here on The Sports Leader. Let's hear from Steve Kerr. Probably the quote of the night with respect to Steph Curry and just what
lineup. He's carried us, and then the Draymond news. I think he was emotionally spent the last few days, frankly, and it was a slow start tonight. It didn't look like he had it, and then as he's done so often, he flipped the switch, and you can kind of see it when it happens right away. And he was incredible, and that's what we needed. As I said, we're in a bit of a rut, and your best players have to get you out of that.
Yeah, and Steph did that for the Warriors tonight, and Clay, I think, did that, as we were talking about. But, yeah, that was a big topic of the pregame press conference, was the fact that the Warriors are a little bit drained, I think, given the way everything has played out of late. And Steph's been carrying that weight, and he thought that while the Warriors had played hard against the Clippers, that they were a little bit emotionally spent. And so, now you get a win, you breathe a little bit easier, and you move on and you try to make it a couple and then see if this team can get on a run. Because tonight's a great win. It was another one of these all-time Steph performances, right, for a regular season game. Like, there are going to be people that went to the game tonight or watched it that 5 years from now or even 15 years from now are going to be like, yeah, I was there that night that Steph, the Warriors weren't playing great and they had a lead and then the Nets came back, or maybe you don't even remember who they played 10, 15 years from now, but it's like, but Steph went off in the fourth quarter and they won. Like, those are, like, it's not always 50 in Game 7 or taking over TD Garden in Boston or beating LeBron or, any of those. It's not always that. It's not always Oklahoma City on ABC Saturday Night Showcase when you're 50-5 with the double bang game. It's not always that. It's not always juking Chris Paul out of his shoes when Chris Paul was with the Clippers. It's never tonight was, for a regular season game, one of the it'll be a low-key kind of memorable Steph Curry game. Stephen Wu on the YouTube chat. Stephen Wu, appreciate you chiming in. Great to see you, JD. Appreciate the kind words. The Warriors can be competitive with any team this season, but they can also lose to any team as well. Unusual time after all these years of domination. Yeah, similar to last year in a lot of ways. Really similar to last year. Enrique with the schedule coming up. Blazers, Celtics, Wizards, Blazers. Warriors last year, if I'm not mistaken, I may have forgotten one, but I think the Warriors, I know they beat the Celtics at home. Warriors, I think we're 4-0 in those 4 games last year. Right? Like, beat the Blazers every time, if I remember correctly. Beat the Wizards. So you got to match that. You got to match that. The Celtics are going to be tough, though, without Draymond Green. But the Warriors have beaten the Celtics shorthanded at Chase a couple of times here over the last few years. Uncle Looney, yeah, they're in a hole. Can't be one step forward, two steps back. And tomorrow would be a major step back if the Warriors can't win. And I'm with you. Said it earlier. Doesn't matter how it looks. They could win by 1 tomorrow. They could win by 40 tomorrow. Warriors have to make sure they handle business. If Looney finds a way to get going, Gonzalo checking in. If Looney finds a way to get going, do you think that could be a boost for the Warriors? Yeah, I think, look, they need Looney now more than ever with Draymond out. And really, I think at times part of Looney's struggles, unfortunately, because it used to be a great combo with those two and the rest of that starting lineup that was the best in the league. But Looney, I think, has played better when Draymond has been out at times. And so, a couple of rough finishes for Looney, but steady game for Kevon Looney. And this one, he didn't look quite right to me physically. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Kevon Looney coming on has been great. Saric has been a great pickup. Saric has been a great pickup. And somebody had tweeted me earlier and said, hey, Saric is playing his way out of the Warriors price range. Yeah, Saric ain't going to be here next year. And be the Magic Johnson. I'm not going to be here. There's no way Saric you're getting him on the minimum again. That's just not. It's just not happening. The goal is be relevant enough to where you can go get next year's Saric, whoever it is. That's just where the Warriors are at this point in time as far as their roster competition. And that would be a nice problem to have because remember, Dario Saric came to the Warriors because he believed that the Warriors were championship contenders. So if you're not getting the Dario Saric's to take the vet men if the rest of the league doesn't believe you're a championship contender. And the Warriors ran into that problem during the years where Klay Thompson was injured. Guys didn't want to come because with Klay Thompson out, nobody thought they were championship contenders. And so players were going to Brooklyn and players were going to the Lakers and players were going to Miami and picking other teams. Players are going to Milwaukee or Boston. All of the ring chasers were going elsewhere. So that, I think, is something to keep in mind. If this is a 9 seed that ekes into the first round and gets beat by somebody, then the days of getting impactful role players at the veteran minimum are probably going to be over at that point. Rich Ray, one more from Rich Ray. JD, do we need to return back to our usual championship lineup to really make a run at it? Well, not right now. There's not right now. Right now, it's go away from it. And, yeah, appreciate you chiming in there, Rich Ray. Look, I think Steve Kerr gave that about as long a leash as you could possibly give it. It wasn't working. And so he went away from it. That's not to say that they may not go back to it, but you can't play that lineup if Andrew Wiggins is a no-show and a non-factor. You just can't do it. You can't play that lineup because so much of that lineup is, you've got 2 non-scorers in Looney and Draymond. Well, if you've got 3 and 4 non-scorers because you had Wiggins and Klay Thompson to the mix with the way that they were playing, then you really can't play that lineup. So if you're not going to move Klay out of the lineup or Wiggins, which he ended up moving Wiggins out of the lineup, then you got to flip the script. And you got to add more shooting and more offense to that lineup. So I think the Draymond suspension allowed Looney to stay in, but give Kuminga a shot, and then going away from Wiggins allowed Steve Kerr to put Podziemski in there and move Klay to the 3, which I think allows him some better defensive matchups as well. And just, having a guy that's just got a little juice and isn't afraid to get out there and shoot and move the ball, I think that takes a little pressure off of Klay Thompson too. In an odd way, I think Brandon Podziemski's taken pressure off of Klay Thompson because he's so confident and aggressive. Like you almost have to have another player that's going to go get it, because if you have a more passive player out there with Klay, then Klay's just going to take more bad shots. And then you wind up spinning your wheels a little bit. All right, let's take a quick look at the standings. before we call it a night here on Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Looking at some of the notes from tonight, I'm looking at some of the scores. Sacramento blew out Utah in Sacramento tonight, 125-104. Keegan Murray scored 47 points for the Kings. 47 points for Keegan Murray. That's wow. And it's even better than that. He was 12 of 13 from 3 in the first 3 quarters. He had 45 points at the end of the third quarter. He scored 26 in the third quarter, which was a Sacramento franchise record for points in a quarter. Mitch Richmond had 25 and a quarter back in 1995, and Keegan Murray scored 26 and was on fire. 45 points through 3 quarters, 12 of 13 from 3. He scored 26 in the third quarter. Not quite Klay Thompson's 37 against the Kings back in 2015, but a hell of an effort. Sacramento got the win, so the Kings moving their way up in the standings as the Kings now 15-9, so that's good enough to be 5th in the Western Conference. Still Minnesota and OKC leading the pack. Minnesota 19-5, Oklahoma City 16-8. Then you got Dallas at 16-9, Denver 17-10, Sacramento and the Rockets. The Rockets probably the biggest surprise team in the NBA, 13-9. How about 11-1? How about this one? The Rockets are 11-1 at home. Anybody remember the one? The Rockets have one home loss. It was to the Warriors. The Warriors are the one team to go in and beat Houston because the Warriors have kind of owned Houston of late. But yeah, the Warriors are the one team to go in there. And the reason you probably don't remember that is because that game was going on right as the 49ers were getting smoked by the Bengals down at Levi's. Those games were kind of going on concurrently. But yeah, the Warriors, and that was the Rockets before the Rockets got hot. That was the Rockets were 0-3 at the end of that game, and then they ended up 13-6 since, but they ran off 6 in a row after that. So Houston's playing well. They're a surprise team in the Western Conference so far. And then you've got the Clippers who are hot. They've won 6 in a row, bookended by the 2 home wins that they got over the Warriors. Lakers are 15-11. They haven't quite been the same since they won the in-season tournament, lost to the Spurs, who hadn't won a game in about a month and a half. And then the Pelicans, when they're healthy, they're pretty good, 15-11. And then 15-11, here's the other thing. 15-11 is 9th in the Western Conference. 15-11 is 9th, and that goes to the point that we've made a few times on Dubs OT, which is just the simple fact that, 15-11 is a 47-win pace. Right now, the 9 seed in the West is playing at a 47-win pace. Think about that for a second as the Warriors sit 3 games under 500. And I know things can change and it'll level off, but the 9 seed in the West is playing at a 47-win pace. Sacramento last year won 48, and they were the 3 seed. So that tells you 47 would have been the 4 seed last year. 47, and again, it's only 26 games, but 47 would have been the 4 seed last year. This year, that pace on December the 16th is a 9 seed. So the Western Conference is better. It is better. The top teams are better. And you want to, because really the top teams are all making hay against Utah, Memphis, Portland, and San Antonio. All right, so that'll do it. Great stuff. Appreciate Ralph. Appreciate Greg. And we'll reconvene and do this again tomorrow, right at the Final Horn, when the Warriors go final up at Moda Center in Portland. And we'll see if we're talking about another win. Because if we're not, it will completely erase everything that happened tonight. But the Warriors, we'll see, as Draymond Green works on what Draymond Green needs to work on. All right, great stuff. Appreciate everybody in the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody on the text line. Appreciate everybody on the phone lines. I'm John Dickinson. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We got a busy day of 49ers coverage. Yeah, have yourself a nice glass of wine or whatever you want to drink. Enjoy a football Sunday. Enjoy the Niners and the Cardinals here on the Sports Leader. And then we've got you covered for the Warriors when they go final on Dubs OT here on KNBR. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
John Dickinson.
You hit that guy. He shouldn't have been standing there.
Curry again from way downtown.
We're going to be championship.